can't have no issue. I ain't got no issue with you. Like, bro, you don't. Man, I don't took care of people in his family, put money in their pocket. Know what I mean? So like, I don't want to go too much into that, bro, because it's like, no.
Here's a question that's been echoing through Memphis, rippling across the internet, and sending shockwaves through the hip-hop world. Where is Yo Gotti? It seems almost unbelievable. A man synonymous with presence, with control, suddenly vanished from view. But this isn't just about a celebrity hiding out. It's wrapped up in a murder case, the murder of Young Dolph, and allegations that point directly at the heart of Gotti's empire. We've seen the courtroom testimony, the cryptic hints, the sudden deafening silence, and now, Hernandez Goven, the man accused of orchestrating the hit, has spoken. What did he say, and what does it mean for Yo Gotti? We're diving deep into the mystery, the accusations, and the silence that's louder than any song. For nearly 4 years, questions have swirled around Young Dolph's murder, and until recently, it felt like a case shrouded in shadows. But the latest courtroom twists have reignited the investigation and sent the internet into a frenzy. Hernandez Goven, the man prosecutors accuse of orchestrating the hit, has been making statements that have sent ripples throughout Memphis and beyond. He hasn't named names, but his cryptic references to outside conversations and potential financial motivations have sparked a firestorm of online speculation. The question everyone is asking now is simple. Where is Yo Gotti? For someone known to dominate social media with lifestyle reels and label success stories, this sudden absence feels utterly out of character. Gotti's personal Instagram, once a constant stream of updates, has gone eerily quiet. No stories, no new posts, no press features. His most recent upload remains frozen in time, a stark contrast to the vibrant presence he once maintained. It's not just the silence itself, but the circumstances surrounding it that fuel the intrigue. Fans weren't slow to notice. YouTube, creators, hip-hop bloggers, and Reddit users seized on the moment, dissecting every detail. Clips of Hernandez Goven's statements were time-stamped, analyzed, and shared widely. Hashtags like "Where is Yo Gotti?", CMGS Silence, and Dolph Trial exploded in fan spaces, particularly in Memphis, Atlanta, and other CMG strongholds. Even Gotti's inner circle, his business partners, and close affiliates have maintained an unusual level of discretion. The silence is spreading, but this mystery isn't simply about legal documents or formal charges. It's about a deliberate, unsettling silence. In Southern hip-hop culture, particularly when facing legal troubles, silence often carries a message. Some interpret it as a protective measure, others see it as a grim foreshadowing. Let's be clear, Yo Gotti has not been charged, named as a suspect, or referenced in any official court filings tied to Young Dolph's murder. Nevertheless, the optics matter. The man who once declared, "I am Memphis," and built an empire on presence and control is now virtually invisible. In today's digital age, where absence fuels theories faster than facts, silence speaks volumes, and everyone is listening. Before Hernandez Goven became a household name linked to one of the most shocking murders in hip-hop history, he was a relatively unknown figure outside of Memphis. But within law enforcement circles, Goven had been on the radar for years. His indictment in November 2022 brought a dramatic shift in the investigation into Young Dolph's death. Goven was indicted by a grand jury on 3 serious charges: first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Prosecutors allege that Goven orchestrated the fatal shooting of Young Dolph on November 17th, 2021 outside Makita's Homemade Cookies in South Memphis. Critically, prosecutors state that Goven did not personally carry out the shooting, but conspired with others to execute the hit. His alleged role was one of coordination, arranging the details that led to the ambush. Public records reveal that Hernandez Goven, who is 43 years old, once lived just a few houses down from the site of the murder. Adding another layer of complexity, his daughter, Lakash Desto, a rising female rapper affiliated with Lil Uzi Vert, was tragically shot and killed in Houston, Texas just weeks before her father's indictment. While authorities in Houston have not linked her death to the Dolph case, the close proximity of these two violent events has drawn significant public attention and speculation online, though no official source has confirmed any connection. Surveillance records show that law enforcement had been monitoring Goven for months prior to his arrest. During pre-trial motions, prosecutors have cited cell phone data, text messages, and recorded conversations as key components of the case.
Well, at one point, Young Dolph and Yo Gotti started getting into it. Do you know the reason why the friction actually started? Because you hear like 20 different stories.
Well, from what I understand, I know Gotti tried to sign him years ago. And, you know, for whatever reason, Dolph decided not to. I think Dolph was...
The full wiretap evidence remains sealed from public view. The prosecution contends that these records demonstrate Goven's communications with individuals involved in the planning stages of the murder. Goven has pleaded not guilty to all 3 charges and has been awaiting trial while out on a $90,000 bond. His release came under scrutiny, sparking concerns from Dolph supporters. Strict conditions were imposed, including GPS monitoring and limitations on public activity. Goven's legal team insists there is no physical evidence tying him to the crime scene or proving he gave the final order. Prosecutors conversely continue to portray him as the mastermind, operating from the shadows, orchestrating events leading to Dolph's death. The full evidence file remains sealed, but courtroom summaries, legal motions, and media coverage have only deepened public interest in Goven's alleged role. But it was a seemingly routine bond hearing in early 2023 that truly ignited the internet. Many expected a procedural hearing, but what unfolded became a spectacle, fueling endless speculation. During that hearing, Hernandez Goven made statements that have been meticulously dissected and reanalyzed online. These weren't direct accusations, but veiled references to outside influences and potential financial motivations. Goven didn't say names, but the implications were clear. I just want to make sure everybody understands. I'm not saying nothing wrong. I'm just telling the truth. That statement, seemingly innocuous on its own, launched 1,000 theories. Who was Goven trying to protect? What truth was he hesitant to reveal? The online reaction was instantaneous. Social media exploded with speculation, with users connecting dots and drawing conclusions. The silence from Yo Gotti and his associates only amplified the frenzy. The absence of any official response from CMG has only deepened the sense of unease. Where is Yo Gotti? What is he hiding? Is he involved? The questions linger unanswered, leaving the hip-hop community on edge. Hernandez Goven's courtroom statements have not only intensified the legal battle, but have also created a cloud of suspicion around Yo Gotti, casting a long shadow over his empire and forever altering the narrative surrounding the tragic death of Young Dolph. The silence may be deafening, but the internet is listening, and the search for the truth continues. The world watched, stunned, as grainy surveillance footage circulated online, the brutal reality of that moment forever etched in the collective memory. The sheer speed and precision of the attack suggested a level of planning and coordination that extended far beyond a simple street altercation. The Mercedes-Benz itself quickly became a symbol of the mystery, a phantom vehicle that vanished into the Memphis landscape, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. The police launched a massive investigation, pouring resources into the search for the perpetrators and the motive behind this horrific act. Every corner of the city was scrutinized, every potential lead pursued, yet the truth remained elusive, shrouded in a veil of silence and speculation. The immediate aftermath was chaotic, a whirlwind of grief, anger, and fear. The community mourned the loss of a beloved figure, a man who embodied the spirit of Memphis, his support for local businesses, his genuine connection with the people, his unwavering commitment to giving back. All of it was abruptly cut short, leaving a void that seemed impossible to fill. Memorials sprung up across the city, murals depicting his smiling face appeared on buildings, and impromptu gatherings were held in his honor. But beneath the surface of the grief, a sense of unease lingered, fueled by the unanswered questions surrounding his death. The investigation initially focused on potential rivals and disgruntled associates, exploring every angle to uncover the motive behind the attack. But as time passed and no arrests were made, the focus shifted to the possibility of a more complex conspiracy, a plot that reached beyond the streets of Memphis and into the highest echelons of the hip-hop world. The social media frenzy intensified, fueled by fragmented information, online sleuths, and a collective thirst for answers. Theories abounded, ranging from personal vendettas to organized crime, each one adding another layer of complexity to the already perplexing case. The name Yo Gotti, founder of CMG, began to surface in online discussions, fueled by a long-standing and often turbulent history between him and Young Dolph. The feud between the two artists had been a constant undercurrent in the Memphis rap scene for years. A series of public diss tracks, verbal sparring matches, and thinly veiled threats that culminated in the 2017 ambush in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Now, what about Young Dolph?
Yeah, I know Dolph. I knew Dolph personally, yes, sir. we did business years ago before he actually blew up. He was rapping at the time, but he hadn't blown up yet. Just being in the streets.
Yo Gotti was initially considered a person of interest in that incident. He was ultimately cleared of any wrongdoing, but the incident left a lingering sense of animosity, a feeling that the feud was far from over. The silence from Yo Gotti and CMG in the wake of Young Dolph's death only fueled the speculation. Absence of a public statement, a gesture of sympathy, or even a simple acknowledgement of the tragedy was perceived by many as an admission of guilt. This silence was interpreted as a calculated move, an attempt to deflect suspicion and avoid implicating CMG in the crime. The online pressure mounted, with fans and critics alike demanding answers and accountability. The hashtag #JusticeForDolph trended worldwide, amplifying the voices of those seeking truth and closure. The internet's scrutiny intensified. Past Instagram lives were dissected, rap lyrics were analyzed, and subtle digital behaviors, unfollows, muted posts, and a noticeable pullback from the public spotlight were meticulously documented and interpreted as evidence of involvement. Bloggers connected dots between CMG artists and individuals with known criminal ties, creating intricate narratives that implicated the label in the conspiracy. These online investigations, while often speculative and lacking concrete evidence, tapped into a deep-seated distrust of the music industry and a yearning for justice in a case that had shaken the entire hip-hop world. Then a revelation, a bombshell that sent shockwaves through the online community and threatened to shatter the carefully constructed narratives that had been circulating for years. A witness, someone deeply entangled in the events leading up to Young Dolph's death, came forward, alleging that the murder was orchestrated by Hernandez Goven, a close associate of Yo Gotti, and that Goven had been paid by Yo Gotti to carry out the hit. The details of the alleged arrangement were disturbing, painting a picture of a calculated plot motivated by financial gain and a desire to silence a rival. The witness, whose identity remains protected, provided information to law enforcement claiming that Yo Gotti had expressed frustration with Young Dolph's independent success and his refusal to join CMG. According to the witness, Yo Gotti believed that Young Dolph was undermining his business and threatening his control over the Memphis rap scene. He allegedly offered Hernandez Goven a substantial sum of money to eliminate Young Dolph, promising him a life of luxury and freedom from his own legal troubles. Hernandez Goven, desperate for a way out of his own circumstances, reportedly agreed to the arrangement, assembling a team of hitmen and meticulously planning the execution. The witness provided details about the Mercedes-Benz, the weapons used, and the surveillance techniques employed, all of which corroborated the findings of the ongoing investigation. The allegations against Hernandez Goven and Yo Gotti were explosive, threatening to unravel the entire case and expose a network of criminal activity that had been operating in the shadows for years. The online reaction was instantaneous, with social media platforms erupting in a frenzy of speculation, outrage, and demands for justice. The hashtag #ExposeYoGotti began to trend worldwide as fans and critics alike called for a thorough investigation into Yo Gotti's alleged involvement in the murder. The accusations against Yo Gotti were unprecedented, threatening to damage his reputation and potentially lead to criminal charges. Yo Gotti's legal team vehemently denied the allegations, branding them as false and defamatory. They accused Hernandez, Goven, and the witness of fabricating the story in an attempt to escape their own legal troubles and extort money from Yo Gotti. They pledged to vigorously defend Yo Gotti in court and to clear his name. The legal battle promises to be protracted and complex, involving intricate financial transactions, conflicting testimonies, and a tangled web of relationships. The stakes are incredibly high, not only for Yo Gotti and Hernandez Goven, but also for the entire hip-hop community. The case has exposed deep-seated issues of violence, greed, and betrayal within the industry, raising questions about the responsibility of artists and the role of money in shaping the narrative of success. The revelation has also reignited the debate about the need for greater accountability and transparency within the music industry, with many calling for stricter regulations and independent oversight. The investigation remains ongoing, with law enforcement agencies working tirelessly to gather evidence, interview witnesses, and uncover the full extent of the conspiracy. The details that have emerged thus far are deeply disturbing, painting a portrait of a calculated plot motivated by financial gain and a desire to silence a rival.
That I had with my son, and my son was like, he wanted me to take the deal. And his position was, he would rather lose me for a few years than the rest of my life.
Right, because you're facing life in prison.
Correct.
Do you have a death penalty in Memphis?
Yeah, they do.
Case has captured the attention of the world, and the truth, however painful, must be revealed. One glaring question lingered. Who else knew? The theory that Yo Gotti was somehow orchestrating everything from behind the scenes had been persistent, fueled by the rapper's tangled history and a distinct absence of direct accusation in the courtroom. The diss tracks alone offered a twisted timeline of escalating tensions. Young Dolph asserting his independence, Yo Gotti subtly dismissing his success, and then the simmering undercurrent of veiled threats. It wasn't just about ego, it was about control. Dolph's independent success was a direct challenge to the established order, a model that bypassed traditional label structures and revenue streams. He was a testament to the power of loyalty and community, building a brand that resonated deeply with fans while remaining fiercely protective of his ownership. That kind of success was bound to attract attention, and in a world where power struggles often manifest as violence, that attention could be dangerous. The sealed federal cooperation mentioned during that courtroom sidebar ignited a fresh wave of speculation. What information was so sensitive that it required redaction? Was it evidence linking Yo Gotti directly to the conspiracy? Or something even more far-reaching, a network of individuals and institutions profiting from the violence and instability within the music industry? The possibility that Dolph's murder was more than just a local dispute, that it was a symptom of a larger systemic problem, was deeply unsettling. The death of Big Juke, Anthony Mims, added another layer of complexity to the narrative. His name being uttered in court, even briefly, seemed to act as a catalyst for tragedy. Was his death a coincidence, or a targeted response to someone potentially revealing information to authorities? The timing was undeniably suspicious, and the fact that he was fatally shot just months after the trial began suggested a level of calculation that transcended mere chance. He had been a quiet force, overshadowed by his brother's notoriety, but it was clear he possessed a deep understanding of the inner workings of CMG and the people who controlled it. Perhaps he knew too much. The streets themselves became a courtroom, with barbershops and live streams acting as alternative forums for debate and speculation. Bloggers, operating with varying degrees of accuracy and responsibility, painstakingly pieced together fragments of information, attempting to create a comprehensive picture of what transpired. They examined lyrics, social media posts, and leaked audio recordings, seeking patterns and connections that might shed light on the truth. The constant flow of information, however, created an echo chamber of rumors and misinformation, making it difficult to discern fact from fiction. The desist letters sent to those who dared to question CMG's narrative only served to reinforce the perception that something was being concealed. The reluctance of authorities to publicly address Yo Gotti's potential involvement was also striking. While legal constraints and the need to protect ongoing investigations undoubtedly played a role, the silence fueled speculation and eroded public trust. The public demanded accountability, not just for the shooters, but for anyone who played a role in orchestrating the murder. They wanted to know why a man who had been so publicly entangled in a bitter feud with the victim had not been formally questioned. The trial itself became a spectacle, with courtroom observers relaying details of key moments and testimonies to the outside world. The defense's challenge to the prosecution's narrative, particularly their insistence that Goven was not the mastermind, created a constant tension within the proceedings. Goven's own words, or lack thereof, were scrutinized with intense scrutiny. Had he been coerced into cooperating with authorities? Was he shielding someone higher up in the chain of command? The forensic expert's testimony regarding cell phone tower data served as a stark reminder of the pervasiveness of technology in modern crime. The fact that Johnson's phone appeared to be constantly pinging towers around key locations, the gas station, the cookie shop, the apartment, suggested a level of premeditation and planning that was chilling. It wasn't just about the act of violence itself, it was about the meticulous coordination that preceded it. The trial wasn't just about justice for Young Dolph, it was about confronting the darker aspects of the music industry, the violence, the greed, the betrayal. It was about holding those responsible accountable, regardless of their status or influence. It was about sending a message that even in a world where money and power often dictate outcomes, the pursuit of justice must prevail. But the trial was only one part of the story. The real truth, it seemed, lay buried beneath layers of secrecy and legal maneuvering, waiting to be unearthed.
I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm the Pope myself or an angel myself, but you know, I don't associate myself with demons or animals and people that just have no heart whatsoever.
Sealed federal cooperation, the courtroom silences, the death of Big Juke. Each element acted as a piece of a complex puzzle, challenging those seeking the full picture. The absence of Yo Gotti's name from the official proceedings was the most puzzling aspect, casting a long shadow over the entire process. The public wasn't simply looking for convictions, they were looking for answers. They wanted to understand why a man who had so publicly feuded with the victim had not been held accountable. They wanted to know what secrets were being guarded, and who was ultimately responsible for the senseless loss of a talented artist and beloved community figure. The echoes of diss tracks and street rumors haunted the courtroom, a constant reminder of the animosity that fueled the tragedy. The streets talked, but the official narrative remained incomplete. The question lingered: how far did the conspiracy reach? Was Goven acting alone, or was he part of a larger network of individuals who profited from violence and instability? The potential involvement of CMG, and Yo Gotti in particular, cast a long shadow over the entire process, fueling speculation and eroding public trust. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the noise and fury that had preceded the tragedy. The pursuit of truth was far from over. It was a process that would require perseverance, courage, and a willingness to challenge the powerful. The streets held their own versions of the events, fueled by eyewitness accounts and social media analysis. Each blog post or live stream added a new piece to the ever-evolving narrative, painting a picture of a community grappling with loss and seeking justice. The desist letters from CMG served as a stark warning to those who dared to question the official story, reinforcing the sense that something was being hidden. The legacy of Young Dolph extended far beyond his music. He embodied a spirit of independence, loyalty, and community, qualities that resonated deeply with fans and inspired countless others. His death was a tragedy, but it also served as a catalyst for change, prompting a broader examination of the issues that plagued the music industry. The search for truth wouldn't end with courtroom convictions. It would continue on the streets, in the barbershops, and on the live streams, a testament to the enduring power of community and the unwavering pursuit of justice. The silence wasn't just a void, it was a carefully constructed wall designed to shield something, and now that wall was beginning to crack. The implications of what was emerging were staggering. The whispers on the streets, the speculative blogs, the feverish live streams, these all pointed towards a truth that those in power desperately wanted to bury. And that truth involved a name that had been conspicuously absent from the official narrative: Yo Gotti. The desist letters from CMG felt less like a legal warning and more like a panicked plea, a desperate attempt to control the story, to dictate the narrative, to silence those who dared to ask questions. But the more they tried to control it, the more chaotic it became. The community wasn't buying it. They could smell the cover-up, taste the deception. They knew instinctively that something wasn't right. And now, the pieces were starting to fit together, revealing a picture far more complex and far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. It wasn't just about the money, though the money was undeniably a factor. The music industry, especially within the hyper-competitive landscape of Memphis rap, thrived on a volatile mix of ambition, ego, and financial desperation. But there was something deeper at play here, a web of relationships and obligations that extended far beyond the recording studio and the concert stage. It was about power, about influence, about maintaining control. The streets had always held their own versions of the story, pieced together from fragmented conversations, eyewitness accounts, and social media analysis. But those stories, as compelling as they were, lacked the one crucial element: concrete evidence. Now that evidence was beginning to surface, shattering the carefully constructed facade of innocence. And the source of that evidence, the testimony of the shooter himself, the revelation that Goven wasn't acting alone, that he was part of a larger network of individuals, sent shockwaves through the community. The potential involvement of CMG, the very organization that publicly mourned Young Dolph's death, was a betrayal of epic proportions. It fueled speculation, eroded trust, and ignited a firestorm of anger and frustration. How far did the conspiracy reach? Who were the puppet masters pulling the strings? And what were they trying to protect?
Why do they keep trying to make it a rap beef between you and Gotti, though?
If it's something about you I just don't respect, bro, I can't sit and fake and act like it's all good.
That's understandable.
Know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, the first time I even met little dude, go in the studio. First time. He seen everybody out the studio. Like, let me holler at dog. Like, man, you got your own everything, bro. You popping. You like, bro, you got the money, you got your team, you got this, you got that. You like, bro, I'm telling you, we can do this, we can do that. You ain't like Zilla. I ain't gotta hold your hand like Zilla. You ain't like Starlito. I ain't gotta hold your hand like Starlito. I ain't gotta babysit you like them. It's my first time meeting you. You gonna really sit and downplay your artist and throw your artist up on the bus to try to persuade me in to come over there? So it's like a red alert the first time I met him.
You feel
I
like
can't
you're gonna say
respect that.
about me.
No, it's just, I can't respect that.
Shooter's account didn't just implicate Goven, it directly implicated Yo Gotti. The claim that Yo Gotti had authorized the hit, that he had provided the resources and the instructions, was a game changer. It wasn't just about motive, it was about direct involvement. It wasn't just about opportunity, it was about conscious, deliberate action. It was about accountability. The community had demanded justice for Young Dolph. They hadn't just wanted convictions, they wanted answers. They wanted to understand why a man who had so publicly feuded with the victim had not been held accountable, and now they were getting those answers, albeit through a source that was far from ideal. The shooter's testimony, while crucial, was also tainted by his own self-interest. He was trying to lessen his own sentence, to portray himself as a pawn in a larger game, but his words, regardless of his motivations, were too damaging to ignore. The implications were staggering. If Yo Gotti was indeed involved, it meant that the highest levels of CMG were complicit in a brutal, senseless crime. It meant that the very people who had publicly condemned the violence were in fact the architects of it. It meant that the pursuit of justice had been deliberately obstructed, that the truth had been buried under layers of secrecy and legal maneuvering. The shooter's detailed account painted a vivid picture of the planning and execution of the hit. He spoke of meetings, of coded communications, of the meticulous coordination that preceded the violence. He spoke of the money that changed hands, of the promises that were made, of the web of relationships that bound the conspirators together. The confession didn't just reveal the how, but it also shed light on the why. The animosity between Young Dolph and Yo Gotti was well documented. It stemmed from a long-standing feud over territory, money, and respect. Young Dolph's independent success, his ability to thrive outside the traditional power structures of the music industry, was perceived as a threat to Yo Gotti's dominance. The live streams exploded with reactions, the energy palpable, people dissecting every word, analyzing every nuance, searching for confirmation, for closure. The barbershops buzzed with whispered conversations, the streets echoed with the collective outrage of a community betrayed. The sense of betrayal was profound. It wasn't just about losing a talented artist, it was about losing faith in the very institutions that were supposed to protect them. The legal ramifications were significant. The shooter's testimony opened up a new line of inquiry, potentially leading to the indictment of Yo Gotti and other key figures within CMG. The pressure mounted on law enforcement, the community demanding a full and transparent investigation. The desist letters from CMG, once intended to silence the narrative, now felt like a desperate plea from a crumbling empire. But the legal proceedings were only one part of the story. The true reckoning would take place in the court of public opinion. The community would hold those responsible accountable, regardless of their status or influence. The legacy of Young Dolph, his spirit of independence, loyalty, and community would endure. And his death, while a tragedy, would serve as a catalyst for change, prompting a broader examination of the issues that plagued the music industry. The shooter's decision to come forward was a turning point. It wasn't just about lessening his own sentence. It was about fulfilling a moral obligation. It was about righting a wrong, about bringing closure to a community that had been robbed of its peace. He understood that the pursuit of justice wasn't just about the courtroom. It was about the streets, the barbershops, the live streams, the places where the truth ultimately resides. The challenge now was to sift through the shooter's account to separate the facts from the self-serving embellishments. The legal team would scrutinize every detail, searching for inconsistencies, for corroborating evidence. But the community, armed with the shooter's testimony, would continue to demand answers. They would hold those responsible accountable, regardless of the legal complexities. The legacy of Young Dolph was more than just his music. It was a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of independence. A reminder that even in a world dominated by corporate interests, it was possible to build something real, something meaningful. And his death, while a tragedy, would serve as a catalyst for change, prompting a broader examination of the issues that plague the music industry. The violence, the greed, the betrayal, the pursuit of truth would continue, relentless and unwavering, until justice was finally served. It was louder than any music, louder than any threat, louder than the silence that had shrouded the truth for so long. The pursuit of truth would continue, relentless and unwavering, until justice was finally served.